Hi, I'm Rachel Abbasi. Welcome to the Recovery Daily podcast. As always, thanks for spending time with me. Hi, welcome back from a week off. I took some time off because I had some family in town, my kids, my mom. It's been a lot. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a lot for my head. I definitely have that sensation of feeling like I'm carrying around a load of dried concrete inside my head. This is the one of the symptoms from having my stroke, and sometimes it's worse than others. And right now, it's pretty bad. But now that I have an empty house, I am hoping that we can get back to our regularly scheduled program. So, thanks for sticking with me. Welcome to newcomers. We've got a lot of newcomers over the holiday season, so I'm excited to have you here. Today, I wanted to talk bit about a little bit about nervous system regulation. We'll see how that comes out. I'm not a doctor, but I do experience a lot of symptoms with my anxiety, and I'm feeling a lot of them today. Honestly, I've been talking about it for like a month. I've been feeling a lot of heart palpitations, and it's very much reminiscent of back when I had panic attacks. When I was drinking. And, no matter what, how far I get in sobriety, I still have this underlying anxiety issue. And when I start feeling these panic attack symptoms, mainly it's like heart palpitations, like my heart is like speeding up or skipping a beat. That's what it feels like. It just feels like irregular heartbeats. And sometimes it can make me lightheaded. Um, Many of you know that I do have a loop monitor that monitors my heart to see if I have AFib. So far, no signs of AFib. And this palpitations and stuff does not read on that loop monitor. I think it's like you have to have an irregular heartbeat for 13 beats or something like that for it to be flagged by the organization that monitors my heart. But I know that it's different than, I don't know. I mean, what am I trying to act like a doctor? I don't know that it's different than AFib, but I'm suspecting that it is just anxiety. And anxiety can feel like you're dying. It really can sometimes if you've got it bad. And there are times that I've got it bad. So we'll see. Maybe that'll come out in the conversation today. I also wanted to talk a little bit about instincts. I wanted to talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs a little bit. And this idea that I say this a lot, and I continue to try to figure out the best way to articulate it. It's like when I was drinking, when I wanted something, I felt like I did not have a choice as to whether I was going to get it or not. If I wanted something, I was going to have it. And I still, have a little bit of that battle going on in my head sometimes. Like, for example, I want an ice cream cone. Okay, this might seem really simple, but I think it's people that have eating disorders could probably understand this. Typically, my eating disorder is I don't eat, but I can get into these phases where, and it's usually sugar based, which I think is related to my drinking, where I feel like it's normal for me to have an ice cream cone before I go to bed. Those of you longtime listeners know that I'm a sucker for a Breyer's natural vanilla ice cream cone on a cake cone every night before I go to bed. But I'll get into this phase where Well, that's what I do. I have an ice cream cone before I go to bed. So it becomes like I don't make the decision every day that I'm going to have that ice cream cone. I just have it. So that belief that I don't have a choice, if I want it, I need it, like my desires are non-negotiable, and that's just not true. So I have been going to my regular AA meetings, and I have heard a lot of topics over the past week. So I think today will probably be a bit of a mishmash. And I want to try to help with that as we merge into the new year, where a lot of times people come to this conclusion that like January 1st, things are going to change. I'm going to have a New Year's resolution, and all of this is going to be great, and I'm going to do it, but I'm going to start on January 1st. And I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions. I believe that if I'm going to make a change in my life, I'm going to do it right here and now in this very moment, or I need to look at like what are my motives for waiting? Because if I'm waiting because I want to enjoy it before then how committed am I to the resolution? So, um I'm all over the place. I realize that. Keep up. This is your problem, not mine. I'm kidding. So, our instincts. Okay, let me back up. So, at the core, our instincts are designed to guide us through our needs. And it makes me think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're not familiar with it, look it up. Early in my podcast, I talked a lot about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And honestly, it wasn't something that I think we talked about a lot in my IOP class or in sobriety, but it was something that came up for me when I was trying to communicate prioritizing my needs and prioritizing what I need and what I want. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs really, to summarize, is like safety first, then stability, then connection, and then meaning. And I know for me, when I was entering into stroke recovery, when I got to that point where I had to make a decision that I was going to leave my job, and when I had reached that point in my alcoholism where I had to make a decision that things were needed to change or they weren't going to change, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs flipped upside down. It was like I felt like I needed meaning in my life. Like when I was sitting out on my front porch, I had to leave my job. This was the very day that I had to shut my computer and never open it again. Uh, I remember sitting out on my front porch crying, sobbing, ugly crying, and thinking the meaning of my life has gone away. So it's like that very tip top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs was stripped away from me. And as I was trying to process it, then I was looking at connection next. I mean, it's fascinating. Actually, I hadn't even thought about it until this very minute. After the meaning was stripped away because I had to leave my job, then I started looking at my connections. Well, because I left my job, I'm not going to have the connections that I had before. So the connections have been stripped away from me, And then I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do every day? So the stability was stripped away from me. What I didn't look at first, and I should have because I just had a stroke, was my safety and my health. So it feels like in life, my instincts get very confused. And When I was drinking, my instincts were completely confused. I wanted connection, right? I wanted connection more than I cared about my own health and safety when I was drinking. And I was very much known for trying to come up with part-time jobs. Yeah, I had a full-time job, but I needed all these part-time jobs that I was trying to create because I needed meaning in my life. And what I wasn't looking at was that the core needs, my safety, my stability. So my body knows how to move upward once it feels safe and secure and healthy. But my mind wants to put that forward movement before my safety and health. So my instincts become impulsive rather than natural, if that makes sense. Um, my drinking just turned that hierarchy upside down. Alcohol reordered my priorities. I prioritized immediate relief rather than safety and security and health. My desire for a drink masqueraded as a need for a drink. What I felt was urgent and essential in order to live. I mean, that's really what it started to feel like. I need a drink to live because it was protecting me from myself, from the battlefield between my ears, as one of my friends says. It was it I was feeling like my my desire to drink was actually a survival instinct. So the real core survival instincts were hijacked by those cravings and the emotional discomfort that I had. So I had this shift in my mind, and it was gradual over time, so I didn't know it was happening. That when I believed that I didn't have a choice to drink. If I wanted to drink, I needed to drink in order to survive. It's so interesting to talk about this, having heart palpitations like I'm actively having them right now, because today I allow myself to feel it. I know that I can't drink no matter what. And the answer for me, like, what do you do when you have these heart palpitations? Well, my answer is to breathe. Like, that's my very first instinct now. That's my instinct. That's my survival instinct now, is to breathe and calm down, is to try to let go of the tension in my body. Like, my instincts have become looking back at my physical needs first, rather than the needs that are going on between my ears. So my desires used to be non-negotiable, and denying myself of the drink, denying myself of the connection that I thought was going to make me feel better, when actually focusing on my health and my mental health was actually going to make me feel better. Denying myself of that stuff really actually felt dangerous, and it actually felt cruel. What I was thinking of this morning was, I remember when I was in middle school, my mom and I would go to the mall. And this was like, I mean, it wasn't like we went very often. And when we went, it was like a big, huge, special thing. And we definitely were not loaded, which is an understatement. Like we we lived very, what, humbly, I guess is how you would say it. Um, but I was maybe slightly a brat. Okay. So we would go to the mall, and I remember going into the Guess section, the brand Guess with the Guess jeans and all that. And I remember going into that section and really wanting something, really wanting something. And if my mom denied me of that thing that I wanted, I may not have stomped my feet and like been physically a brat, but on the inside, I was stomping my feet. In my mind, I was very, just felt like I was being denied the most amazing thing in the world, and my life was just gonna was gonna end if I was not allowed to wear Guess jeans like everybody else. We couldn't afford Guess jeans. So I didn't have that ability to pause or to understand than to be understood. I just wanted to be understood, and I wanted whatever urge or desire I had, I wanted the next action to satisfy that urge. So I was pouting, I was pouting. And later in my active alcoholism, that desire to drink, if I didn't get the alcohol, and at this point I was drinking 24/7, and if for some reason there was not alcohol around me, I felt that same lack of emotional control. Like I have got to get it. I remember one morning, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was running through the neighborhood by myself in the snow, running through the neighborhood to get to what I called the drink store. It was a convenience store, so that I could get alcohol as soon as possible. So I could get a bottle of wine as soon as possible. And I was falling down in the snow. Who knows if somebody was watching me? It was like one of those movies where somebody is trekking across the desert, and they're so lacking in water and food that they just keep falling down. That was me, only I was falling down because I was drunk. But that's probably what it looked like if somebody were to look out their window. Um, my nervous system equated wanting with survival. I did not have the ability, it felt like, to decide. So when I walked into sobriety, and for those of you longtime listeners, it wasn't just one time I walked through the door and everything was resolved in my life. I have plenty of episodes about that, and I'm sure there will be plenty more in the future. But I needed to relearn choice in recovery. And it was a slow realization that wanting something isn't needing something. And the discomfort from not having what I want does not equal danger. So the pause becomes a skill. And that pause, I don't remember the first time I learned how to pause in early sobriety, but it was like I had to practice it with everything. And the choice, the freedom of choice came before my confidence in my freedom of choice. Like learning I could feel something and not act on it. And one of the ways I learned that is just in conversation, in when I'm in a conversation with somebody, if I feel like I want to say something specific to them, I learned that I don't have to say it. And one of the things that I learned in the program is, does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? And does it need to be said right now? And I don't know if I said those in the right order, but you get the gist of it. Learning that I don't have to do the things that are in my head. And that has been so, it's funny because it's like, holding back has given me freedom. That's interesting that it comes like that. So, as we get into the beginning of sobriety, as we get into the beginning of stroke recovery, or whatever it is that you are facing in your life that is new, be it a new year, a new you that you want to start practicing, it's important to allow yourself to have a gentle re-entry or entry into that recovery, into that new year, into the new year. Like, recovery doesn't require reinvention with the push of a button. We don't need some sort of sudden declaration like a New Year's resolution. We don't have to have some aggressive self improvement. What we need to do is start out by listening. Whew, my heart is palpitating. Sorry. I'm okay. I just have, I don't know. I'm going to the doctor this morning. It's just a regular checkup thing, but maybe it's just because I'm leaving the house and I already have like head symptoms and stuff. I'm feeling it. I got lots of feels today. So anyway, just being careful and kind to yourself in this re-entry or entry into a new way of life or into daily life, into the new year, building capacity to pause more often rather than just making this declaration that we're forcing a big change on ourselves. We're more apt to keep doing the thing, the new thing, if we allow ourselves to relearn. Relearning requires practice. And if I am in a conversation and all of a sudden I blurt something out that, oh man, I really should have held my tongue there. I didn't fail. I didn't fail. I just make a mental note. Okay, what did I not do this time that I'll try to do next time? Um, and that gives me the understanding of emotional safety. And I have to be emotionally safe. I have to tell myself kind things in order to have emotional growth. Because if I beat myself up, then I'm not going to want to revisit that practice. So regulating my emotions is ahead of making a resolution for me. Rest, routine, nourishment, boundaries, whether that is external boundaries or internal boundaries. I start by creating a baseline of calmness. So I know what my baseline for calmness is. And I think one of the reasons why I'm having heart palpitations right now is because I'm not breathing regularly. I have a battle when I'm trying to get a point across because I have some of that cognitive delay because of my stroke. So I think I can get myself really worked up when I'm trying to communicate, which is what I'm doing right now. So create your own baseline for calmness so that your instincts can recalibrate and you can like create a muscle memory of that baseline of calm. So when the nervous system settles down, then your clarity can return and you can continue to make those conscious decisions like review your motives, look at what are my instincts telling me right now, and rebuild Maslow's pyramid the right way. um, Safety comes first. Sleep, consistency, predictability. That's huge for me. When I start feeling the heart palpitations, for example, breathe. So I have a predictable way of calming myself down. And when I continue to return back to that, that creates my stability, the routines, the support. Medication is stability. I take medication for my anxiety, and that is included as a stable routine. Belonging, I create a routine for my belonging. I have my sobriety community, I have my stroke community. And so just practicing honesty and connection, picking up the phone, will stabilize the connection. You know, that's kind of two of them, but it all, I think, feeds on each other. And then what that does, if I remain honest with myself and connect with other people, I start building trust, not only external trust, but self trust. And then that frees me up to create meaning in my life. Purpose emerges naturally. I believe purpose has emerged naturally for me if I practice the steps of the program. So I've learned how to deny myself of things that I want, but I'm not depriving myself. I'm making decisions, purposeful decisions about whether it's delayed gratification or creating my own boundaries for what is protecting me, protecting my sobriety. And it doesn't feel like a restriction. It doesn't feel like I'm keeping things from me. You know, I'm not saying no to punish myself. I'm saying no because I love myself. So my instincts then soften because I'm not always in survival mode. I'm able to quiet down, put my body and mind and emotions first, and then make those decisions as to what does my recovery require, and have that discernment instead of deprivation, right? So recovery, whatever it is that you're entering into new, whether it's a recovery of from alcoholism, stroke recovery, there's so much that everybody is recovering from all the time. Emotional trauma, physical trauma, all kinds of stuff that we're recovering from. And even if you can't pinpoint what that is, there is always, every morning, we're entering into a new day, you know? And recognizing when I wake up in the morning, one of the first things that has always come to my head when I open my eyes is, you're an alcoholic. And I used to just shrink, you know, like my shoulders would just shrink and my head would just drop. You're an alcoholic. And today, that's not what happens. but it took time for me to decipher between my compulsions and what is choice, and finding a way to regulate and find routine in my life, and flip that hierarchy of needs upside down and put it the way that it's supposed to be. In the morning, I focus first on my program. I remind myself that I'm an alcoholic, and then I take care of my personal needs, and then I log on to a sobriety meeting. So my instincts haven't gone away, they've shifted over time. And taking gentle care of myself gives my instincts back their wisdom. So I hope that this episode provides you with that greater feeling of choice that sometimes disappears when we feel like we're just a victim of life, a victim of everything going on, and we get so caught up in, oh, it's a new year and I want to be something new. I want to be a new version of myself. Well, start right now. You don't have to wait 2 days. Start right now, and that's where you can start building the routine, and you will emerge as a new version of yourself, but only with consistent and constant work in your program. So thank you so much for listening. And you know what? Let's stop right there, because I usually say I will talk to you tomorrow. I've been saying that for like 4 years. And lately, I have not been consistent because of the holidays in recording again the next day. So I feel like I'm going to need a new closing. I'm going to think about that. I do feel like I am going to talk to you tomorrow. So I will say that, but I'm going to think about a new closing for sure. Just needed to stop and get that out. Okay. Thank you for listening. And yeah, I'll talk to you tomorrow.